Happy New Year. I'm so grateful to start this new year with my Women of Worth Wednesday friends. And I'm grateful for this new year and the opportunity we have to reflect and to prepare and to ponder and to maybe journal. And this year, for Come Follow Me, we are studying as a worldwide church the Book of Mormon. And for those of you that joined me last year as I did a Come Follow Me series on the New Testament on my other platforms, this year I'm excited. I have a new program started called Real Talk, Come Follow Me. And I have a co-host, Scott Sorensen. He's an amazing seminary teacher. And we're going to talk about the scriptures in a real way and share messages that we feel like are connecting with what's really happening in your families and in your lives. There's a lot of resources out there for studying the scriptures, and Come Follow Me specifically. There's blog posts and podcasters and lots of people trying to share goodness and information to make the scriptures come alive. But Scott and I really want to talk about the Book of Mormon this year and hopefully in the future, how the scriptures are really a handbook, a liahona, a guide for what's happening in our families and in our lives, especially singles out there that may not have a family to study the scriptures with. We hope that you'll join us. But my message today is really around the Book of Mormon, and we've already taped all of January, and so I feel like I'm already in the middle of the Book of Mormon in my personal study for this new show that I'm doing called Real Talk. And in my preparation and pondering, there's so much in there. And I wanted to talk to you about my why for the Book of Mormon. I love studying the scriptures, but many of you, and myself included, it doesn't always feel like this powerful spiritual experience every time we open the scriptures. And sometimes it feels flat, and sometimes it feels confusing, and sometimes it feels like we don't understand what's going on. But if I was to name one book that I could not live without, it would have to be the Book of Mormon. And for me, it is because the Book of Mormon has saved my life. Sorry, I didn't expect to get emotional. Last year, as we studied the New Testament and Come Follow Me, I fell in love with the New Testament. I fell in love with the Jesus of the New Testament, of the women of the New Testament. And I don't believe that we separate the standard works or the books of Scripture, but there's something very personal for me in the Book of Mormon. Sorry. Late night New Year's Eve celebration, I'm going to chalk up my emotions to that. But as I thought about this new year and studying the Book of Mormon and what Scott and I want to share and what I want to connect with my family in our study each week about, I have been pondering about what the Book of Mormon has really meant to me. And I won't list all the stories and verses that have saved me, but one that stood out the most this morning as I prepared to share a message with you is the Psalm, what I call the Psalm of Nephi in 2nd Nephi, where Nephi is really struggling. He has lost his dad. He has a complicated family. Maybe you can relate. He has journeyed through the wilderness for 8 years and then on this open sea. He's done things he's never done before. He built a ship. He's now a prophet because the Lord is going to ask him to leave his brothers and go out with followers that are believers on his own. And he's struggling. He's struggling with depression and anxiety and temptations of mortality. And he's the prophet. And he is saying, I don't know what is wrong with me. God has shown me so many miracles. I've seen God. I've done amazing things with God. Angels have ministered to me. I've had visions and spiritual gifts and blessings that I should be the happiest guy ever. And yet I'm struggling. And I will tell you that those verses have helped me in so many countless ways. I went back to them to study them for our February lessons. And yes, I will put a link up. Thank you for those that have asked for the Real Talk series. Covenant and Siegel are producing it. And so if you follow any of their platforms, you'll find it. And we're on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. But as I studied for Real Talk, those verses again, I just was reminded again how this book of scripture has saved me through marital stress, through infertility, through depression, through grief after Meg committed suicide or died by suicide. It has saved me as a mom, as I've read about Alma trying to parent Alma the younger, as I've read about Lehi, who is pleading with Lehi is pleading with Laman and Lemuel and saying, I see your potential and you're living below your potential. And how did he maintain that hope? I don't have the answers, except in these verses, Nephi talks about how he's gone through all of these afflictions. I'm going to turn to it. And he's gone through all of these afflictions and he has felt the heaviness of those, but his heart has been cheered. And as he has reflected on all of the grief and the iniquities and the depression and maybe even chronic illness or whatever it is, because he says his flesh is wasting away, so he's losing weight. And this is in 2 Nephi 4, if you don't know the Psalm of Nephi. The pattern of praying and pleading and pouring out his heart unto God. And then he says, nevertheless, my heart wants to rejoice, but I groan because of my sins. Verse 19. Can you imagine talking to your teenagers about the Book of Mormon this year in a way that is personal, to say to them, Nephi was a prophet and he groaned because of temptation and affliction. He had enemies, which were his brothers. He goes on to show that he is trusting God. Even though things are hard, he says, awake my soul, no longer droop in sin. And I rewrote these verses. Rejoice, GANEL-LYN, give no more enemy of my soul. That's verse 28 of that chapter. And he talks about how he was swallowed up in the goodness and love of God. And that to me is the answer, no matter what it is in our families, in our health, in our finances, in our addictions, in our depressions, that the scriptures are real families struggling with real stuff. No personal story in here is not also riddled with affliction and conflict and opposition. And yet we so often want our families to be perfect. We want our faith to be perfect. But the Book of Mormon has saved me because it shows time and again that the pattern of imperfection and covenants go hand in hand. That if we keep our covenants, I've said this many times before, they will keep us. And the New Testament, Jesus, is expanded and testified of in powerful ways in the Book of Mormon. And I hope you will dive into the Book of Mormon this year with whatever resources you have. The Book of Mormon has saved my life. It has bridged the gap between my afflictions and grief. It has bridged the gap when I haven't known how to solve my problems. And it has comforted me by reading one verse a day. One verse can help. My son served a mission in Zimbabwe. For women of worth people, you know that because I've talked about it so many times. He's been home a year now. And while he was on his mission, he wrote to me and said that the Book of Mormon can be our personal Liahona. It can answer any question. And so I've used that pattern. I've taken questions to the Lord And I've said, I'm going to use the Book of Mormon reading I'm at right now where I'm at. Help me see the answer. And I love when the Lord is clear with me, and then I struggle just like you do when it doesn't feel clear. But I promise you, if you will be consistent every day in reading the Book of Mormon, the promises are sure. And these are the promises, not just from me. This is what the prophets of God have said to it. The prophet Joseph Smith said, I told the brethren that the Book of Mormon was the most correct of any book on earth and the keystone of our religion. And a man and woman of worth would get nearer to God by abiding by its precepts than by any other book. President Benson has said that there's a power in the book that will flow into your lives the moment you begin a serious study of the book. You will find greater power to resist temptation. You will find the power to avoid deception. You will find the power to stay on the straight and narrow path. The scriptures are called the words of life. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel mostly dead. I feel mostly dead, spiritually, mostly dead physically and mentally and emotionally at times. And this promise from President Benson is true as it was when he said it today. President Hinckley has said that he promised us that if we will prayerfully read the Book of Mormon, regardless of how many times you have previously read it, there will come into your hearts an added measure of the Spirit of the Lord, and you will be strengthened and resolute to walk in obedience to the commandments. So I don't know about you, but I need these promises. I need to come closer to God. I need to avoid temptation. I need to avoid deception. I need to have greater power in my life to strengthen and resolve my walk. And then President Nelson, from our current living prophet, he says, I promise that as you prayerfully study the Book of Mormon every day, you will make better decisions every day. I promise that as you ponder what you study, the windows of heaven will open and you will receive answers to your questions and direction in your life. And I promise you, he says, that as you daily immerse yourself in the Book of Mormon, you can be immunized against the evils of the day, even the gripping plague of pornography and other mind-numbing addictions. These are the promises of the Book of Mormon. So whether or not you study with me, if you study alone, if you study with your family, if you use the resources on LDS.org, please study the scriptures and the Book of Mormon every day. I promise you, it will save your life. And that's a pretty bold promise to make. It's the first day of a new decade, of a new year, and today I want to share with you that you can begin today. And then if you fall off, you start again. That is what the message of the Book of Mormon teaches over and over and over again. Covenants will keep you if you will keep them, and that God's mercy extends no matter how far we fall. He knows we are worth saving, as my co-host Scott shared on our first episode. Okay, let me get it together and share this closing thought with you. I get asked a lot about how I study the scriptures. Specifically, this is one of the things I've done, I would probably say, for the last 10 years. I have a small plates and a large plates, just like Nephi created. My small plates, here's number 17. It's about to be finished. I'm about this far from the end. This is where I write the daily record. These are my large plates. Did I call them my small plates? I'm a little sleep deprived. And I'm still trying to figure out these braces, guys. Seriously. Woo! I don't know where to put my lips. My small plates and large plates. These are my large plates. I have 17 of these. I started keeping a journal when I was 8 years old. Some years I've not been so great. These are the daily records. I changed something up this last year. If you open this one compared to my other journals, they're a little different. Every day I write how I saw the hand of the Lord in my life that day. That's how I keep a daily record. President Eyring has done that forever. He taught us that, right? So last night I wrote before bed, I write this. Just a few sentences. And it's my large plates. It's the happenings, the going-ons. But this year I upped it with the I saw the hand of God today. I saw the hand of God today in my daughter finishing personal progress and connection in time with my son last night. That's it. Little record in my large plates. Small plates. Small plates I started about 10 years ago. These are my small plates this year. The small plates are my record of the more spiritual matters of my life, even though my large plates say that too. So I have this divided into different sections. Gratitude, personal revelation. I always study the Book of Mormon, even if we're studying another book of scripture. I also have conferences. What does this say? My values for this year. I choose 2 words for the year. I'm doing the youth program. Okay? And talks. So this is how I get through a sacrament meeting that may be boring. It never is for me because I'm always trying to record. I take this with me to church. I try to record impressions from the Spirit on whatever is being said. And then temple. Every time I go to the temple, I try to record things about the temple that happen, that I feel, that I experience. I also have a place for priesthood blessings. Every time I get a blessing, I record some thoughts and treasures. That's just my extra. Okay, you can do whatever you want. I also have my patriarchal blessing in here, my husband's, and a copy of my son's. And this is my small plates. So I don't know if this helps you. I don't know. I just think that there can be a simple like comp journal where you write your question, then you open your scriptures and you ask it, and then you write your impressions after, because your impressions are the voice of the Spirit talking to you. It's going to come in your mind and heart, and it's going to sound familiar. It's going to sound like you, because God's not going to speak to you Mandarin Chinese unless you speak Mandarin Chinese. If the Spirit feels familiar, that's good. So start to, refocus a little. These are my tips. I'll keep sharing them. I'd love to have you join Scott Sorensen and I on Real Talk. He's open about his dealings with mental health and depression. He's a great seminary teacher and a friend of mine. And we're committed to talking about the Book of Mormon this year for real families, real individuals in a real way. That's why we called the show Real Talk. Because the scriptures are filled with real families doing really hard things. And so be gentle with yourself and do something. These promises from living prophets and past prophets on earth that promise us power and direction, protection and discernment is what we need in the last days. Jesus is coming, right? We're getting ready for that. And I know that there's going to be great opposition, but the promises in the Book of Mormon, I just read that this week, are that the righteous will be preserved. And sometimes it will be that we're preserved emotionally, spiritually, mentally. So I just hope that for you, I've loved seeing all of you join in. Thank you. From Madagascar to, Florida today. Thank you for joining me on this first Women of Worth message for 2020, which is crazy. And I hope you feel excited that you'll return back to the scriptures, whether you have a small plates, a large plates journal process, whether you have a composition book, whether you follow a podcast that helps you, whether you go on LDS.org. They have totally amazing resources there on Gospel Library app where you can see reference material to help your study, or whether you just read one verse a day. I promise you the Book of Mormon can save your life. I declare that and testify of that and send my love to you as we all work together, as we press forward to the tree to partake of the fruit every day, and feel of his Spirit. Thank you for joining us here at High Five Live. We are committed to sharing uplifting messages, and we're excited for this coming year, for this community that has grown. And Happy New Year. And all of my love. You are amazing a group of individuals. I love the Women of Worth community, and I love our High Five Live family. And thank you for joining me. Happy New Year.